Hello and welcome to another video from the Greyest Trout on YouTube, and it is not episode something of something for the Burnley career mode because that is over, and this is the very first of my weekly Premier League roundup. I'll be doing this every week. Usually they'll be out on a Monday or a Tuesday, but I slacked off this week, and my recording of Match of the Day went a bit wrong, so I sort of had to catch up on it in another way. But anyway, basically, I'm just going to go through all 10 of the games at the weekend, just sort of talk about them, talk about all the big moments. Obviously, there was a massive moment. Well, when I say massive moment, there was a bit of a dramatic moment with the referee in the Chelsea-Arsenal game, and Diego Costa up to his tricks again. But I'll be going in chronological order with the games because that's how I roll. And, well, we might as well start with the big talking point, really. In fact, most people will probably leave after this, after I've talked about this game, if they haven't left already. But Chelsea versus Arsenal was obviously the first game at 12:45. I watched this on BT Sport because, luckily, having BT Broadband has actually given me some kind of reward after going through their shitty service. But hopefully they don't cut my internet now. But anyway, yeah, this really wasn't a great game. I watched about 75 minutes of it. I sort of got bored towards the end because you knew that Chelsea were going to win, and I mean Chelsea don't exactly play particularly enthralling football, to be honest. But yeah, the first half was that there were very limited chances. Chelsea were mainly on top, but I mean, no one was really setting the world alight. Hazard and Sanchez weren't really doing much. Ivanovic actually seemed okay for once this week against Sanchez and didn't really offer much. I think Oscar coming back in for Chelsea was quite a good move there. But Pedro didn't really offer them much, and really the red card turned this game on its head because really this game, well, when I say this game needed a sending off, I sort of mean more it needed something to spark it into life or for one team to get the upper hand, and that was sadly Diego Costa's antics, really. It was just a bit of a weird scenario, really. I mean, it was always a bit of a fight that this game really always has been recently, but yeah, it's just Diego Costa riling up the Arsenal team. I mean, I think everybody knows that Diego Costa should have been sent off along with Gabriel. Well, the only thing I really didn't understand, well, there's two things I didn't understand in this whole situation is what the hell Mike Dean was doing. I don't know. Well, actually, no, sorry, there's three things I don't understand. Number one, what the hell Mike Dean was doing in this whole situation because he handled it terribly. He should have just brought the captains in after there was the little fight between Gabriel and Costa before the kick out. Then I don't know what Gabriel was doing with the kick out. I mean, if you want to actually fight Diego Costa, you might as well try and knock him out and punch him in the face, not do a shitty little kick that's not going to cause him any problems, because at least he won't protest after it, even though he's barely touched you. But yeah, I mean, Mike Dean, it was just handled all completely terribly, and Costa was just the architect of the madness. And the third bit of madness really is what the hell the FA are doing, because they've obviously repealed Gabriel's red card. I can see why they've done that, sort of. But what I don't really understand is why the hell Mike Dean is actually refereeing a game this weekend, because he just handled this situation appallingly, and he's not the greatest ref, to be honest, Mike Dean. Although I mean, obviously refs get a lot of stick, but he really did handle this situation terribly, and he probably should have sent off both of them, or at least stopped it before Gabriel kicked out and just controlled the situation. But he didn't do that, and Costa got away with it. And after that, Arsenal did their typical poor set-piece defending. Monreal let Zuma get away at the back post, and that was a header at the back post from the free kick, and pretty much after that it was all over. Cazorla stupidly got sent off. Coquelin's injured, and it's really all falling apart for Arsenal at the moment. You can expect the Arsene Wenger out chance in maybe a week or two, and then they'll probably go on a run. They'll end up in the top four, and it'll be as we expected it to go. So that was that game. That was pretty terrible, really. Moving on to the 3 o'clock kickoff, so I'll start with Newcastle Watford. And as I said at the start of the season in my predictions, I really do like this Watford team. I think Flores somehow reminds me of Doran Martell in Game of Thrones. The guy who plays him, I think it's Alexander Sigdig or something. I don't know why. I think it just sort of looks like him. But yeah, I just like this Watford side. I mean, when you've conceded that many goals with Aurelio Gomez in goal, you know you're doing well. I mean, they've kept so many clean sheets this season. Really have kept teams at bay with that defence, and to add to that, they've got that great partnership with Zagallo and Deeney. Annoyingly, it's Zagallo that's scoring all the goals, and I've got Deeney in my fantasy football, which is really screwing me over in that. But they really do have a great partnership. As for Newcastle, they still aren't good enough, really. I mean, their signings, well, most of their signings, well, when I say most of their signings, I mean the two signings, really, of Wijnaldum and Mbemba, that's it, have been pretty solid signs. Mitrovic was still sort of waiting to see, but those two signs have been great, but it really hasn't been enough so far this season to sort of save the dire mess that they're in with Colaccini. Haidara particularly is very, very poor. Gave the ball away for Watford's first goal, and that really put them up against it. And Cisse was poor as well, and I don't really fear for McLaren. I mean, he was on the telephone halfway through the game, and he just seems to be putting all these antics going in the stands, and I think I don't know if he'll get sacked, because I don't know how much Ashley really gives a shit now. But yeah, I can see McLaren potentially getting sacked, or Newcastle being in trouble again. There's just no way out for them. You've got to be winning those games against Watford. Anyway, moving on to the next game, Stoke versus Leicester, and this fixture really has changed in the last couple of years. I mean, 3 or 4 years ago, you probably would have said this would have been a boring 0-0 game, probably in the Championship, and it would just be pretty terrible, just hoofball. But now they've sort of got two similar managers in at both sides, both trying to play attacking football, but sort of not focusing on the defensive aspects, and that's probably why it ended 2-2 here. Bojan was a fantastic little goal to put Stoke up in the lead. Great comeback for him there, and I think Bojan is really going to power them this season. I think he could score a lot of goals if he manages to stay fit, because he is a great player, and potentially may actually drag them out of trouble if they do end up getting put in a relegation battle. The equaliser from Vardy was just, a typical Vardy goal, just sneaking in and just brushing off the defender, slotting it in to the bottom corner. But really, the defending for the equaliser was terrible. The penalty decision was the right decision as well, I think. But they just completely switched off. And if you look at it, two players went for the ball up in the air for the equaliser for Leicester before it came down to Vardy. And I just don't know what they're doing at the moment. Shawcross has left a lot of holes there. In the back with his injury. I think he's injured anyway. And they really just need a leader in there. Van Ginkel doesn't seem to be working at the moment in front of them, and they just don't seem to have much protection or anything really. Hughes was once again moaning about the referee. Seems to be the biggest moaner in the Premier League, and that does say something with the moaners that are in the Premier League. But I think he needs to focus more on defensive training on the training ground rather than moaning at referees. Otherwise, he could be back to his old form as QPR and be in a relegation scrap. I think Stoke will have enough, but it's worrying signs that they've got those type of players in the side and they're not doing better at this stage, especially surrendering a 2-goal lead. Moving on to Bournemouth and Sunderland, well, you've got to say Sunderland just completely out of their depth at the moment. I mean, that they completely missed. I don't know why O'Shea wasn't playing in this game. I don't know if he was injured or not, but Kabul and Coates at the back, it's like going into a world war with a cheese grater. Just going into open warfare with absolutely nothing, and they're just so useless. Kabul gets sent off. I don't know. I just don't understand why Sunderland signed him. It just doesn't make sense to me. The Ritchie goal was obviously fantastic, but Sunderland were equally as bad. And Lens is probably their only sort of good spark to the team. Defoe missed a lot of sitters, and I just can't see where they're going to get out of it. They probably will end up doing that. Bournemouth a good result, but I still worry about who's protecting their defence for bigger games, because they all just seem to be that their midfield just seems to be filled with the same type of sort of ball playing midfielders like Sermon, who I've seen play at Norwich. But obviously Wilson's banging in the goals for them, so they could be okay there. Anyway, moving on to Villa West Brom. What can you really say about this? It's a typical Tony Pulis victory, really. Villa again were poor. Gestede needs to start more as well, because they just seem to be lacking something. That they seem to be just relying on Grealish to do something for them, and he's not going to be able to produce for them every week. And yeah, it was a nice finish from Berahino to win the game. It was sort of just flicks it round past Guzan. It was a nice finish. But Villa losing at home to West Brom, that's not looking good for them at all. And Sherwood needs to get his act together soon. Otherwise, they're in big trouble as well. Again, moving on to Swansea and Everton, not the most enthralling game. Bit of a stalemate. And obviously Morales got sent off, and not quite sure what he was thinking, considering he just went in 2-3. Sometimes Morales just seems to have these idiotic moments, which is really holding him back. I was hoping from a bit more from, I can't even speak at the moment. I was hoping for a bit more from Morales. There we go. Since he joined Everton, but he's sort of been a bit disappointing for me. I don't know if that's just me that thinks that, but it was a stupid challenge, 2-footed, and he only just come on as well. But yeah, this was a stalemate, and both teams will be up there, but it wasn't their greatest day at the office here. Moving on to the 5:30 kick-off game, which was Manchester City West Ham. Big shocker here, or maybe not a big shocker if you've been following the away results of West Ham United. And really, it reminded me of the Roma-Barcelona game in midweek, where they drew 1-1, where Roma were just throwing everything in front of these world-class players. And it was exactly the same, but just a Premier League version here, because Winston Reid was in fantastic form, pulling the form that he had for me in my Burnley career mode on FIFA 15. It was a typical City performance, though. They always have these moments in a season, really. Usually it's more likely they're away, but I mean, I think they'll be fine, to be frankly honest. Once they get rid of Navas, because Navas is really holding them back, they need to get Aguero firing, but once they do that and have Silva back in there, then you're going to have Sterling, Silva, De Bruyne and Aguero in there, and that is frightening, to say the least. But really, great stuff from De Bruyne as well. He really has fit into that team already, which is very worrying as a Manchester United supporter. But it was a great finish from him to get them back into the game. Moses also for West Ham, fantastic little finish from him. Maybe a bit too much room for the goal. Mangala didn't do too great there. That was Man City from last season at that point. And also considering from a set piece wasn't great either. Saka always seems to score against Man City though, so it didn't surprise me. As for Otamendi, I believe it was his debut. I'm not 100% sure on that, because I don't like to follow Manchester City too much, but only really had that bullet header which Adrian saved. That was typical Otamendi, looking at the videos that I've seen of him on YouTube. Obviously, I thought he was coming to Manchester United, but I'm not bitter at all. Anyway, that was a great result for West Ham, and it has made sure that Man City haven't completely run away, was it already, and the gap's only 2 points. Moving on to the Sunday kickoffs, Spurs versus Palace. I didn't actually see this game. It's the only game that I haven't actually seen over the weekend. I was sort of expecting Spurs to win this, or this to be a pretty low-scoring game, and it was that. And obviously, Son for Spurs, their new signing, really firing them, and it doesn't surprise me. Leverkusen have got a fantastic team over there in Germany, with the likes of Chanolu and Bellarabi, Kiesling, that great guy. He's fantastic on FM, or Football Manager, I should say. But they really needed that win, Spurs, as well. It's starting to look a bit more up for them now that Arsenal lost that game against Chelsea, and they've sort of moved into the top half of the table, I believe. So a bit of a dent in Palace's hopes, but didn't seem like it was a game that really suited them, from what I've heard, in terms of the nature of how they play. Moving on to the 4 o'clock kickoffs, I watched the Manchester United game, obviously. First 20 minutes were bloody horrendous. I mean, I think we were missing Shaw and Schweinsteiger there because it just didn't feel like we had a leader in there at all. The whole sort of setup of the defence, and just there wasn't great protection from Carrick either. That was summed up in the first goal really with well, just a schoolboy error really, just letting Mane destroy you for pace after turning you. So and no one even got there for Pella on the rebound. So it was very, very poor, the first goal that we conceded. But obviously, Martial reminding me of Ruud van Nistelrooy at this rate, not even Henry. See, that first finish from Martial was textbook Van Nistelrooy, where he just did the sort of little drag back and then just slotted it in, and then he just so cool for the second finish as well, when the mistake was made by Yoshida, who is sort of that weak link in the Southampton defence. I'm not quite sure why he wasn't playing over Cedric, but that was a bit of a weird decision. But it allowed Martial to get in. Obviously, being Manchester United, you can't go into the last 5 minutes with more than a 1-goal lead, so Southampton obviously got back into the game. De Gea has had to pull off a ton of saves, and it just seems to be a constant theme that this always happens, where 1 goal up and De Gea always has to make a ton of saves right at the end. But typical result really, but at least we've moved in to 2 points behind Manchester City, which is good. Moving on to the final game, which was Liverpool-Norwich. Fantastic finish from Russell Martin. What a story there. Having his bloody child born, and then goes to the Liverpool game at Anfield and scores a cheeky little dink. Not great defending from Liverpool there, and really, Liverpool did look better here, but I mean, I think the game was summed up for Liverpool by Coutinho's miss, where he should have dead and buried it to make it 2-1 towards the end of the game, and he just smashed it straight ready. He had so much time, and that's all my one complaint was Coutinho. Sometimes he does score those wonder goals, but a lot of time he really doesn't produce on a weekly basis, especially when he's just got easy chances. But I was sort of expecting Benteke to be firing them in this game, knowing his track record against Norwich, but obviously Suarez wasn't around, and Sturridge obviously came back in, so it's looking up for Liverpool, but really, Rodgers needs a result this weekend, otherwise he is in deep, deep trouble. But it's another great result for Axe Neil. All the promoted sides have been doing very, very well so far. So it really is looking up for them. Grabbing getting back into the team was also good to see after all the stuff that's been going on with him and Bradley Johnson. Potentially, rumour has it anyway, potentially screwing his wife, hence why he's gone to Derby. But that's a bit of a storyline developing there. But obviously Axe Neil's got those troops going. And even when you've got Russell Martin at centre-back, they're still putting out results. So it just shows how well they're doing at the moment. So that is the review of Week 6 in the Premier League, and I'm sure this weekend's going to be interesting. I predict Aguero will probably be back on scoring form because he always scores a hat-trick against Spurs, and I can see it happening again. I might even triple captain him in my fantasy football, but that might be a bit dodgy since I am leading. But anyway, this has gone for about 19 minutes, which seems to be a common theme, 18 or 19 minutes in my videos for some reason. But thank you for watching, guys, and until next time, goodbye.